plates reduce air intake. Moving on, drag is one of your biggest competitors.
It slows you down, so make sure your car is streamlined.
And don't forget to get an edge with drafting.
Take advantage of the high-pressure air between your car and the one in front. Then you can slingshot it.
You guys taking notes?
At the track, in the classroom, and online. Get special ticket offers for kids at NASCAR.com/KidsTix today.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Tonight from Stafford Motor Speedway, the eNASCAR Ignite Series powered by iRacing takes to the track for the fourth and final race on this, the opening round of the 2018 playoffs. We started with and still remain with 50 drivers hoping to get a spot on the grid at Martinsville, where they'll have a chance at $10,000 in racing scholarships, amongst other things. But in order to get that spot on the grid, you've got to survive tonight. The round one finale comes to you next on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Good evening, Sim Racing fans, and welcome to Stafford Motor Speedway, the site of tonight's eNASCAR Ignite Series powered by iRacing playoff round one finale. As we welcome you into the RaceSpot TV booth, myself, Evan Pasoko, Justin Prince alongside you. So happy to be with you tonight on the iRacing Esports Network. Randy Chance is downstairs bringing us to you this evening, and Justin, we've seen quite the variety of racetracks through to this point, especially coming off of the short road course at Texas a week ago. But we have now completed 3 of the 4 races. Tonight is the night in which we will find out the 30 names that'll fight for that winner-take-all finale that comes to you next week right here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. We know the drivers to look for. Garrett Lowe certainly dominant fashion, 3 for 3 thus far, but anything could happen when we get to Martinsville. The objective tonight, though, is to get that far.
Exactly right now. For a lot of drivers, that's the focus. Many drivers have made mains so far, 28 total. The focus is for everyone else to be sure you're able to punch your ticket to for this final main before that final showdown to make sure you're there for Martinsville, because remember, you have to be in the top 30 to be able to race in Martinsville next week.
And let's talk about that top 30. And you mentioned 28 different drivers have made the main over the course of the last 3 weeks. Well, that's a big thing to point out because there's substantially more points available to the drivers who qualify into the main than to those who do not. So again, the objective is to get to the top 30 at points. We take a look at the points coming into tonight. Daniel Silvestri is the lowest driver in the championship that has made a main. He has 37 championship points. That is nowhere near the 252 that Garrett Lowe has, but both of those are going to get those drivers into Martinsville. But the big key difference is then you look down to 29th, that's Howie Briss, has not made a main, 15 championship points, a huge drop. So you've got Briss 29th, Braden Caress in 30th with 14, and it is a 1 point difference. Back to Roland Johnson, Spencer Tart, both with 13 points in 31st and 32nd. If you are anywhere 29th on back, your objective is to make the main here tonight.
You have to make sure you make the main, exactly. So these drivers, they have to make sure they're on their A game and are able to make the grids. They cannot afford to let it lay by points, whether the last chance qualifiers or the heats. They have to show speed, they have to have a good qualifying time, and then make the main, because then they'll be much more safer than comparing it to leaving it towards the fate of how the last chance qualifiers play out.
There's certainly a ton on the line tonight. Of course, some of those drivers who are top 28 in the points, if you don't make the main tonight and say 3 drivers below you in the points do, there is still a chance that you could get booted out of this thing, so we cannot stress enough. It doesn't matter where you finish. Would you like to get a bunch of points? Yes, but the objective has to be to get into the main. And of course, if you've been joining us over the course of these last couple of weeks here, you know that the easiest way to get on in is just to do it in those heat races. If you do not qualify in through those top qualified positions in your heat race, it is a long way home, because it is not simply an LCQ. You would then have to qualify in through a C main, make the transfer positions in the C main just to grid up at the back of the B main, then have to qualify into the top spots of the B main to get to the feature. It is a long night if the opening 10 laps on your evening do not go according to plan, and I think that's certainly there are going to be some drivers who see themselves struggling with that. The question simply will remain, who is that going to be? And just simply taking a look at some of the qualifying times. Qualifying going to kick off in just under a minute here, Justin. Drivers have 2 laps to qualify themselves up, and then of course the qualifying order is going to dictate what we are going to see in these heat races. So we don't have any heat racing grids quite yet for you, but just taking a look now, somebody like a Daniel Silvestri, name that we just mentioned, the lowest points driver right now, 28, lowest driver in the championship standings, who has made a main so far this year. If he makes the main, he is all but guaranteed a spot in the top 30 and a trip to Martinsville. He right now best driver in practice with a 21.656 as we wait for that Q session.
Yeah, right now been showing a lot of speed in all the practice sessions to try and get themselves ready to go for tonight's action. Right now, the range for the times we'll be seeing tonight are from the 21.6s all the way down to around the 22.1s tonight, from the front to the back of the field. And for these drivers, it's about trying to make sure you're able to handle a very tight race car for these legends tonight, to make sure you have enough rotation to get around the racetrack and to put in some fast times to have a good qualifying run and to pull away from the rest of the pack.
And of course, we'll see these drivers try to use every little bit of this Stafford Speedway that they're going to be able to optimize their lap times. Drivers in Q session right now, they're going to go real wide down in 3 and 4, coming to the green, and then you're certainly going to see those cars go down. And there's kind of 2 different markers on the inside of the racetrack in a place like this. Justin, there's the transition from the banking to the flat, but there's no line really there. The yellow line's much further down to the inside, practically about 5-6 feet lower than where the flat begins, actually on the inside of the apron. So drivers going to have to be careful differentiating the two. You try to get down to that seam, but you don't want to go all the way down to the flat part.
Yeah, you want to have your left side tires at the least underneath where you see the white line through turns 1 and 2. With turn 2 specifically, you do have to slide up a little bit with your line. Then Some drivers have been able to get some speed going fully down the flat part for the exit of turn 2, go down the backstretch, then ride the left sides underneath the white line again for 3 and 4. But the problem is through turns 3 and 4, especially the exit, there's a risk if you go too fast on the exit with how tight it is and how little rotation you'll get tonight, you will slam into the wall heading down the front stretch. So it's about a lot of give and take and making sure you're able to ride below that white line, at least with the left side tires, rather.
And we did spend a good amount of time there breaking down where that transfer bubble is going to be in the championship, rightly so. But, we would be mistaken to not look at the top of the championship standings as we begin to wind down in the qualifying session. Obviously, Garrett Lowe has been so good with a win every single week in the regular season. He has won all 3 of the playoff races we have seen thus far, leading 120 total laps. That's more than 5 times the next closest driver in Andy Tripiano, who's right there second in the championship, only 19 points back. So Garrett Lowe undefeated thus far in the playoffs, and that's great for him. But to go back to a point we touched on a couple of weeks ago is that, Justin, it really doesn't matter how good his regular season was. It doesn't matter how good this opening round is going to be for him. He is going to be on an absolutely even playing field with everybody else. There's 29 other cars by the time we get down to Martinsville, so you could have a fantastic 8-race regular season, a fantastic 4 races, have 12 perfect weeks, and then one simple mistake in when we get to that winner-take-all finale and takes him out of it. So certainly he feels pretty good now, but I promise you that confidence can only go so far by the time we get to next week's race.
I agree with you. For him, I think when it goes to Martinsville, rather, he will have to try and hope he can carry a lot of that momentum and keep calm and patient to be able to run up at the front for that race and have a good, strong qualifying run, because that format, remember, that's still going to be a 30-race total race with 3 total heats to try and get yourself towards that last chance, from the last chance qualifier up to the main. But the pressure's on to make sure you have a good run. Right now, it's about just trying to continue or establishing momentum.
And you're not going to hear his name quite yet because it was not a good qualifying effort for the number 1 ranked car coming into this. But we do know heat race number 1 qualifying is done. We're set to go race seed for our first heat race tonight. We go trackside. This is your heat race number 1 starting grid. Zach Novak does get the best time. It's 21.662. Get to put him on pole for heat race run. He will be joined on the outside of the front row by the number 3 of Aaron Mulrooney Jr. Rajah Caruth will start 3rd position tonight. He's joined on row 2 by P4 starter Austin Edwards, and Devin Serra rounds out your top 5.
D. Parker will start in the 6th spot, trying to improve from practice with Roland Johns and Lucas Graham behind him in row 4. Rounding out the 9 drivers for heat race 1, Howie Briss, who needs to have a strong run starting shotgun.
And Briss didn't take a time at a qualifying session, and it doesn't look like he has been able to make it to the grid for heat race number 1. If he is able to get reconnected to the session, he is going to have to deal with the C, the B, if he wants to get all the way through into the main event. But let's go on top of the pace car. We've got a fun night of action ahead of you, and as always, we are so happy that you are spending a Wednesday evening with us on Race Spot TV and the iRacing esports network. Pace car going to head down it in this time. And the field is in the hands of number 15 is Zach Novak. Let's see if the 15 can put the right foot forward as he looks for his first win of the 2018 playoffs. Mulrooney on the outside as they look for the green flag. Round 4 underway in the eNASCAR Ignite Series. Novak cleared at turn 1. The fight's going to be behind with the 9 car. Austin Edwards topside tries to stay behind the number 3, and he'll be able to do so.
Yeah, pretty good, strong start for that top 3 to be able to get yourself to single file and away from the contact. And now you're seeing the differences with how some of these drivers are taking these lines, trying to be able to pull on away, especially off turn number 4 with the amount of rotation.
That's the objective. You can see these drivers already diving way down at the flat of the racetrack, especially down at that 1 and 2 end of the racetrack, trying to get these cars to rotate. You talk about a tight condition. Best way to fix that is to get that car as loose as you can. I promise you, if they were dealing with loose conditions, they would not be intentionally driving out of the inside, but that is how they hope to get these race cars to rotate. So Novak going to be able to lead this one early on. Mulrooney Jr. uncontested so far for second. Does have Austin Edwards all over over the back bumper. That 9 went outside on Rajah Caruth. Again, they started side by side on row 2. The 9 leapfrogged, went 4th to 3rd, and he is all over the back of the 3 for the number 2 spot.
And he seems like he's a little bit faster than Caruth right now. He's been getting close to the back bumper bar and getting close to getting a bit loose, trying to break in to avoid hitting the bumper bar towards the apex to avoid the back of the 3. So Edwards wants to go. It's just about trying to find a place to pass Maroney Jr.
All he's looking for right now, but of course, you do want to make that pass, no doubt, but I don't think you also want to jeopardize the position you're in. 2nd, 3rd, pretty good for the time being. We have seen in prior weeks you get aggressive and you take your bolt out of the race, but there's the move. Edwards to the inside. He'll loosen Maroney up. It is going to be side by side for 2nd, and the 3 wasn't able to carry nearly any speed that time off of the corner. Austin Edwards has got it. He takes 2nd. Maroney tucks back in 3rd, but it's far from over. A big slide. The 9 nearly lost it at a turn 2, and on the outside it comes back. It's a 5-way fight for P2.
A heck of a save from Edwards as around goes Devin Serra, unfortunately. A few different drivers in the wall, Caruth in the wall, unfortunately. But now that makes it interesting with the top 3 now pulling away from D. Parker on back because of that.
All blew up there with those 5 cars. You mentioned those 2 that got up into the outside wall, and all of a sudden, we're back to square one, and it was a couple of the other cars who had just joined the party, and Sarah and Caruth, who ended up going around, and Austin Edwards maintained 2nd, Maroney Jr. still 3rd, and D. Parker's dropped the back about a 2nd, the number 45 car, still +2 on the night, runs in 4th position. That would not be good enough if he hopes to go right to the main event. This time by Popsicle 6 at the air. 2 laps to go for Zach Novak, leading all the way thus far from Stafford.
And he's been running a very good pace. He's still in the 21.8s. In fact, all the top 3 are in those 21.8s. Everyone on back is at least a 10th slower at this point. So Novak setting a good tempo as he heads towards the white flag.
1 lap to go for the 15 machine. It is going to be smooth sailing in front of him, and for a driver who comes into this expecting to get the results, Zach Novak only 1 top 5 thus far when it comes to being able to lock it down in the main events in this open round of the playoffs. So get a ticket right there. He's going to go all the way. Coming to turn number 4, checker to flag, Zach Novak, your winner for heat race number 1 from Stafford Motor Speedway. And we are guaranteed to see him later on tonight when it comes to our feature race.
Yeah, Novak pulled away from the battles that were forming up behind him to 1.4 seconds, with Edwards, Maroney Jr., of course, being in that top 3. But D. Parker, he was able to put together some of his strongest runs of the night overall, including the practice sessions, being able to get by the incident, get himself to 4th to be able to have a decent starting spot for the last chance qualifiers later on tonight.
Certainly a lot going to be coming up. Austin Edwards, P2, Maroney Jr. 3rd to get the respectable results. It is going to be Parker, Cram, Jones, Caruth, Sarah, and Briss not advancing out of heat race number 1. Heat race 2 going to now roll. We take a look top to bottom. A Race Spot TV starting grid. It is Kenny Brady out of pole position for this one as he pilots the number 6 entry, and Daniel Silvestri needing a good night, and he makes it to the main. He's pretty much guaranteed to spot the top 30. He will start in 2nd. Travis Oliver will start this one in 3rd position. It is going to be Jacob Hall to the outside of row 2, rolling off a 4th spot, and Jake Matheson, 19 machine. He rounds out your top 5.
Gerald Labor will try and break his way towards the top 5, starting in the 6th spot with Spencer Tart and Andreas Eek in row 4. Vincent Arthur will start shotgun for the 9 drivers for heat race 2.
Look top to bottom, a Race Spot TV starting grid. Same number as we saw before, 9 on the grid, but Vincent Arthur not making it. So just like we saw in Heat Race 1, 8 of the 9 drivers on the grid are actually going to be able to make it to the racetrack. Looks like Arthur is going to be headed to tonight's Atlee C main. He and Briss, the only 2 drivers in the race tonight that started, but have since disconnected from the session. The pace car is going to go in. It's going to be a very early start for Kenny Brady. Green flag in the air. Heat race 2 off and away, and Daniel Silvestri got caught sleeping on that early acceleration. He's going to have to deal with Travis Oliver on the inside. 27, a little bit slow though. On the entry to 1 means it's side by side, the battle for P2.
He's braking a little bit earlier compared to his competitors he's driving side by side with. That's why he was a little slow into turn 1. But watch Jarrett Liebert. He's moving his way forward as there's a car flipping.
Are flipping in the back. It's on the front straightaway, no caution, so this is going to stay green. It's not going to affect the issues, but it was the 37 of Jacob Hall in that incident. Meanwhile, in the fight we've been watching, Silvestri going to get a little bit of a break now because the fight is now for third spot. Matheson on the outside of Oliver. They're keeping each other busy in that fight for third. Might let the 7 get a little bit of distance here. He pulls now about 7 car lengths.
Yeah, and Silvestri can just go on and focus on continuing to pull away from that battle for the bubble spot. He had a strong pace, remember, top time in warm-ups preparing for tonight's action. One of the top practice drivers for this upcoming week. Now, just has to focus to keep away because Oliver's going to have a heck of a time trying to hold off Matheson.
That's going to be his objective. What he really wants to do is just try to run this race at a time, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Not even halfway home yet. And Matheson has followed him through the field again. Oliver runs exactly where he started in third. So does Silvestri in front of him second, and Kenny Brady in first position. So Matheson very much the driver on the move, but it is not only the 19 machine applying the pressure. Spencer Tart right there as well in the number 32 entry. We've got 3 cars stacked on top of each other in that fight for position number 3.
And Tart knows how crucial it is to catch up to that bubble spot position because he is 32nd coming into tonight, needing to make the main as he watches as Matheson moves by.
27 up the racetrack, the 19 to the inside. I don't think they made contact. There might have been a little bit of a shot in, and if there was, about as good of a bump and run as you could execute. Nice and clean for Jake Matheson. Moves the 27 up and out of the groove just enough to get a nose to the inside, and he has now taken over third. Matheson gets the spot. Oliver slips to fourth, and Spencer Tart still there in P5. Can't get that little bit extra. Here's what we'll be able to tell just how good the 19 is. If he checks out, he's got a better car. If Oliver gets back to him, we might not be done yet.
Yeah, I think that battle's not done nearly enough yet because Tart's been sending it very deep into the corners as a huge save by Travis Oliver. Are you kidding me?
He almost threw it away, though. He keeps it on track. The 32 trying to go for the Jake Matheson, but he was a little bit more aggressive. He hit him a little bit later into the corner, and those small differences is what really nearly spun the 27 out, whereas when we saw Matheson make the move on Oliver, it more so just pushed him up the hill and out of that preferred groove. Obviously, a little bit of a late race desperation move for the 32. Tart's not going to be done. He wants to go to the B main instead of having to deal with a C main. That could be determined based on how these drivers finish this without the white flag is in the air, and the 32 to the inside. There's going to be contact, and he pushes his way through. He's not clear. He'll cut Oliver off. All of the excitement now as Lieber tries to fly by. It's going to be well behind Kenny Brady, who's going to win, but behind it's a spin. Lieber gets, or he turns, I should say, makes the turn, and Travis Oliver gets jumped to the final corner as Brady wins in Heat Race 2. What a finish.
A wild finish, especially for that P4 spot in terms of Oliver. It was unfortunate for him because just a misjudging of the space really into the corner. Oliver taking blame for that, it looks like, in that. But a heck of a battle to try and get the spots overall to just get decent position for the last chance qualifiers with Brady, Silvestri, and Matheson advancing on, Evan.
Yeah, that's the objective for those drivers. Of course, Lieber, Deacon, Oliver, Jacob Hall, Vincent Arthur, also somebody else who doesn't even make a start. Going to be a long night for them, but we will see plenty more of those drivers coming up just a little bit later on. We keep on a rolling with the action. Heat race number 3 on the grid, and it is Ryan Matthews on a pole position for this one. Your pole sitters won both heat races so far. He'll look to make it 3 for 3 as he'll lead us to the green flag alongside the number 8 machine. That is Dave Walsh, who starts in second. Dylan Alt rolls off in third position. It'll be Brian LaPrade into P4, and Steven Rosales rounds out your top 5.
Dawson Hess will start in 6th, with Anthony Burrows and Camden Weist rounding out the 8 drivers in this heat.
It'll be looked at the bottom, and feels like a little bit of a shorter grid with only 8 drivers on the list. Of course, last 2 heat races have had 9 names listed, but in both of them, the back marker did not take a time to the queue and did not take to the grid itself. So it is going to be 8 cars, just like we've seen so far, 4 sets of 2x2. And Matthews again has the ability, by bringing us to the green flag in this one, to kind of dictate the restart. Oftentimes you don't see that. Normally drivers on the initial start of a race wait all the way until that green flag comes out. Has not been the case early tonight. Those who have qualified, or I should say those who have out-qualified their competitors, are very much feeling entitled to dictating the start of the race, and we'll see how good of a jump Matthews gets. If he can leave Walsh with a mess behind him, I think that would be very good for the 2 car as he looks to make it into tonight's feature race. Pace car going to dive down this time. 10 more laps on the docket as we wait for the number 2 machine to go. He'll jump mid-corner. It is a good start as Matthews brings us to the green flag, and it is a poor start outside for Dave Walsh. He'll try to defend second, but it's Dylan Ault charging on the inside.
And Walt bobbled a little bit, it looked like, to me down the front stretch at that start too. But he's on the preferred line and can really battle things. Oh, watch where Rosales is, though. He is in the catbird seat for when Alt gets on by this number 8.
Gonna get on by him, that's the objective here. He's got the inside, he'll push up on him, and Dave Walsh getting pushed around a little bit, holds his ground as best as he can. He'll go for the crossover. So now it's Walsh to the inside on Alt. This fight side by side for second, and it gives Steven Rosales a great view behind him in the number 4 position as they single file out, as Alt wasn't able to stay in the gas that time off of 4.
He actually tapped the wall a little bit. That's why he was out of the gas a little bit, because of the amount of rotation, as LaPrade, unfortunately for him, got into an incident and is absolutely demolished for his front end.
A tough break for the 11 machine. He just kind of got sandwiched, got turned at a quarter number 2. The car is still limping around the racetrack, but Brian LaPrade is going to be headed to the C-Main as he drops all the way down to 8th place in the running order. And unless there's some sort of catastrophic issue throughout the rest of the field, he is most likely going to finish there at the very bottom of the scoring pylon. A good amount of space here, but unfortunately Dylan Ault continues to struggle. Turn 4 has been a problem spot for him. Dave Walsh is gone. I don't think P2 really attainable anymore. Ault just trying to defend third. A big slide has brought Rosales and now Dawson Hess into the conversation. Look at the 21 machine all over the back of the 22.
He actually gave a little bit of a kiss to the back bumper bar, but this is exactly what they want to see in terms of Alt, because he is really nearly mowing down that turn 4 exit wall. So as long as they keep you by him, or at least give enough space in case he ends up sliding down to try and save the car in case he bumps it too hard, Rosales is in a good spot. He just needs to keep up with the pace of Dylan Ault.
What you have to do, and again, if you can stay in that kind of a position, you've seen the 14 machine have a couple of blunders already this evening. You could maybe hope that, hey, if he makes another mistake, I'm going to be right in this thing. So all you want to do, keep yourself in contention. Don't overdrive that car. The last thing you want to do is to take yourself out of this race. And so far, we've seen drivers do pretty good, I would say, thus far, of not making those mistakes. The 21 Hess, though, issues for Dawson Hess in the number 5 spot. He got all kinds of out of shape all on his own. Clipped the wall, went down into the grass, and wiped out down in turn 1.
Hess as well as Alt both hit the wall at a turn 4. Alt was able to save it a bit and keep on going. For that number 21 machine, it was a bit too much of a ricochet, went into the grass, and that shot him across the racetrack. Unfortunate for Hess, who really needed a very strong run, his best shot so far to try and get himself to the main.
All you're hoping for at the moment, and for Ryan Matthews, looks like he's going to successfully make it 3 for 3. As he works now with the white flag in the air. Heat race number 3. He's got an 0.8 of a second advantage over Dave Walsh, who's also going to coast through this one, but it is Matthews up at the front. He'll take the checkered flag, follow Tom to corner 4, and he is your Heat Race 3 winner. From the Stafford Motor Speedway, Walsh second, and Ault comes home third. No changes on the podium.
Rosales, Burrows, Wiest, Hess, and LaPrade all did not advance. and we're going to have to go through the last chance qualifiers. But unfortunate for Rosales because it was very inconsistent, I noticed, with his lap times, trying to keep up with the back end, was bouncing between the 22 flats to as high as the 22 fives as he fell back before the checker flag.
That's how that one's going to come to a close as we continue on with our heat race coverage. Again, 5 heat races on the docket every night. It is time for heat race number 4. Andy Trippiano is going to be the driver who brings us to the green flag in this one. Second place overall in your championship standings. Looking to make some noise. He'll be joined outside. That's the 24 of Brandon Ulm, who will start in second. J. Mitchell Adams rolls from third position. Demetrius Whitney, therefore, ends up at the outside of row 2 in P4. And Garrett Lowe, not the best qualifying effort for a driver who has not had to deal with anything other than a heat race at the main event so far. All playoffs, finds himself at the outside looking in as he rolls from P5.
First time we've seen him have to work through traffic in these events so far. He'll start alongside Hunter O. Johnson with Patrick Moose and Ethan Egan going to round out the 8 drivers in heat race 4.
You completely look top to bottom as your Race Spot TV starting grid suggested. We've seen pretty ordinary heat races thus far. Your pole sitter goes on the win. There's a tad bit of drama, but Garrett Lowe, P5, obviously a big question mark. He hasn't shown a ton of speed. Does he find it, though, right now?
I think right now, possibly, because right now I think it's about trying to get comfortable, and right now he knows he's won the first 3 races. He's already very much so safe in the points. I think he still at least makes it to the main tonight, but we have to see how he does here. I think he improves as the run goes on.
See how that path to the main event is going to be for Trippiano. He wants to do it right now. Green flag in the air, and once again, a good start for the control car. Means a good start for those on the inside. Look at Garrett Lowe pushing his way through as he shoves J. Mitchell Adams out of the way, and in half a lap, he goes from P5 to second.
I kind of expected that with him, and we got trouble in the bubble spot.
Big spin behind. Of course, no cautions, but it was the 33 of Patrick Moose who went around. I don't think he really took anybody else out with him. No, it was J. Mitchell Adams got caught. Number 12 also spins.
Yeah, that was very close action there. Unfortunate contact. That was again for the bubble spot and really shakes things up. And Hunter O. Johnson, who has been needing a big break to get himself to the main, is now on the transfer spot. In the transfer spot, rather.
A big change of events as all of that re-racks the running order. Trippiano still P1, but again it is now Garrett Lowe 5th to 2nd, and Hunter O. Johnson also up 3 spots in 3rd. I don't know if that position's quite as safe because here comes Demetrius Whitney. There's going to be the move to the inside at lap 4. The battle is for 3rd position, and on the inside there's the contact. Just enough though to loosen up O. Johnson, and just like that, Whitney slides into 3rd. Countless times tonight we've seen that car down low push up, and around the outside you're just so vulnerable.
Yeah, it's very difficult to be able to carry speed because of how tight the track is on that lane. If you're on the high side, you're basically a sitting duck, and it's very difficult to try and defend up there. Johnson, seeing that example, the best he can really do, or best anyone can really do to defend, is try and outbrake the driver on the bottom and hope you can get to the bottom without making any contact. That's what he did to get himself back and forth.
And when you put yourself in that preferred position, you're able to reap the benefits. More than halfway through now at a heat race number 4. The lead has actually continued to extend, so despite the very spirited move early from Garrett Lowe to get to P2, nowhere near race-winning speed yet this evening. Andy Trippiano continues to be faster than him by about a 1/10 of a second every single time around that gap, now 1.4 seconds. I think that's the biggest deficit we've seen Garrett Lowe run all playoffs, and again, that goes to testify to how good he has been, but still not his night thus far. As he continues to hold P2 though, he'll be able to go straight to that main event.
Yeah, he is very much safe as long as he doesn't make any contact. Is pulling away from 3rd spot with Demetrius Whitney, especially with Whitney having to play defense It's going to be interesting with the main, though, between him and Trippiano, because Trippiano's shown speed in all 3 races as well to finish up at least in the top 3 for all 3 events so far. So this could be interesting for the main. Speaking of interesting, look at what's going on. Turn 1.
Oh, he tagged it. Whitney's going to spin. He'll tag the 24. And Brandon Ulm is going to spin in turn 2. It all came to a head after it was a block thrown on the number 29 of Johnson by Whitney. Johnson did not lift, and he turned him. And the unfortunate victim, that was the 24. That is a big shake-up late for 3rd position on the back. The track is clear by the time Trippiano comes through in the 5 car. We'll head into 3 and 4 for the final time. He'll continue a wonderful opening round of the playoffs. Andy Trippiano wins heat race number 4. Garrett Lowe notably going to advance from 2nd position. With a little bit of controversy, it is Hunter O. Johnson who ends up in 3rd after contact at 2 to go.
I think for Hunter O. Johnson, even with the contact, just looked a bit of a misjudge of speed. He's breathing a sigh of relief because he was 35th in the points coming to tonight. Did not make a single main so far. Had just 10 points on the season. Now, he's able to get himself some strong points. Now the question is, how is he going to run in the main tonight after being in the bubble spot overall? It's going to be wild, though, with some of these drivers that we're going to see in this last chance qualifier with Egnan, Whitney, Moose, Ullman, Adams here, Evan.
And those LCQs coming up next with the C and the B main on deck, but there is one more heat race as we keep bringing you action. This is the starting grid for the 5th and final heat race on the evening. Dylan Hodge, 5th best in Q, means he will lead the 5th heat race to the green flag tonight. He will be joined on the outside by the 17 of Mikey Neal, who starts in the 2nd position. Nicholas Doucette will roll from 3rd spot. Riley Thompson in P4, and Braden Karras therefore going to round out your top 5.
Yeah, right now he's going to start alongside Benjamin Morton with James Seawright and Tyler Marble rounding out the 8 drivers in this final heat race 5.
And this is going to be the look top to bottom 8 drivers. The name of the game still so far all pull to checkers from the Stafford Motor Speedway as the lights go out on top of the race car. 10 more laps before we get to the C and the B main. Those races, as always, if you've been with us so far this season, 12 laps apiece before we get to the 30-lap feature race that comes on just a little bit later. Pace car in, though. Let's see what the number 4 machine at Dylan Hodge can do. How early does he go? And the key is, I think, look for Neal on the outside of the racetrack. Green flag in the air, and again, P2 gets left hanging. It's Nick Doucette on the inside. He'll go 3rd to 2nd, and see if the 17 can fight back.
Doucette didn't get the best of starts. He clipped the grass a little bit, it looked like, on turn 4. Nearly hedged against it, but got a good spot. But look at Karras. He came in here needing to get into the main with the top 30 being so close. He's now going to battle for that 3rd spot for the bubble spot.
That could be the main position that we have to watch out, but Mikey Neal has not been able to do anything outside. If I'm him, I need to get low ASAP, and he can't do that because the 13 Riley Thompson's still there also. He lost 2nd to the 10, he lost 3rd to the 50, and he may even lose 4th position now as the 13 Riley Thompson digs on the inside.
Thompson, though, you see they're charging in hard, getting late, trying to let himself off the gas to be able to try and hold on to the spot. And you can see how much he knows he needs to get by Neal, blocking his way down the backstretch to hold on to the bottom spot as Neal hits the back bumper bar.
And Neal was not happy with the way that block went down into the corner, drove it in a little bit deep. He made contact, but Riley Thompson's car was pretty much unaffected. It was the 17 who got loosened up and had to regain control of it. It is now James Seawright on the inside of the racetrack trying to make something happen. Almost was able to make it stick down low, not the case. So now the 17 with his feet back underneath him, coming to halfway in this 5th heat race, has an opportunity to try to get back at Thompson. That gap's only about 2 or 3 car lengths. Good spacing in front of them. A fight for 2nd may happen, but nothing at the moment. But it's, I think you said, about 0.2 of a second in front of Braden Karras for 3rd. Other than that, though, that fight for 4th on the back is the place to keep your eyes glued.
Yeah, especially with Riley Thompson, who has shown a lot of speed in the first 3 rounds of the playoffs so far. If Thompson can get some good laps together, he might be able to maybe reach the back bumper bar Caress on the last lap, but he needs a bit of luck overall. There's a long ways to go to try and get yourself towards the back of Caress, though.
That's the objective. You just got to be able to get up on the back of him, and at least the way it sits right now, it is very much turned into a game of cat and mouse. A couple of laps, it's Doucette better. A couple of laps, it's Karras better, and you know, those the back and forth, that tug of war, if you will, has been able to work out for the most part in the hands of the tender machine. Doucette has a good amount of space right now, a lot more than he had just a few laps ago. That means Riley Thompson kind of stuck in no man's land because you can't get to the 50. The 50 can't get to the 10. It's a pretty good amount of space, and I think the most space that we've seen thus far. It just looks like you're stuck in a rut. Your car is only so fast.
Yeah, you absolutely are stuck in a rut, knowing you got a faster car, but that there's not really enough laps to try and get the job done. When it comes to Thompson, he is 0.2 faster than Braden Caress, but with the track position, with the not great start for Riley Thompson, that ended up hurting him overall, and now he's going to have to hope for some luck as they reach the white flag.
1 lap to go in heat race number 5. It is smooth sailing for Dylan Hodge. Nicholas Doucette in second. Closes a little bit at the very end as the 10 has cranked it up, but no immediate battles for position unless we see somebody make a mistake. Final time, far end of the racetrack in 3 and 4. Dylan Hodge is able to go all the way. He will win heat race number 5 and punch his ticket into the main event. Nicholas Doucette comes home second, and Braden Karras in third. Are those magic numbers? It is going to have to be better luck next time as we await to see Riley Thompson, Mikey Neal, Benjamin Orton, Tyler Marble, and James Seawright a little bit later on as they head into the LCQs. And when you speak of those, not only did we go from about 10 laps to 12, so a little bit longer, but we had a couple of race cars. C Main is up next. We go trackside and take a look at your C-Main starting grid. And again, you finish in the top positions in this. You don't go to the feature. You just get to go to the B-Main. So it is a long night for one of the drivers in this race who may race at a feature. But here's how they started: is D. Parker, who starts at a number 1 position. And it is Steven Rosales rolling off in second. Riley Thompson starts third. Jarrett Liebert rolls from 4th. And Demetrius Whitney rounds out your top 5.
Roland Johns will start 6th with Camden Weist and Benjamin Morden in the 7th and 8th spots. Travis Oliver, he had some decent runs in his heat, but got bumped around in the final couple laps. Starts 9th with Braden Ohm in 10th. Devin Serrett, Dawson Hess, and James Seawright will round out the 13 drivers in the first LCQ. But to correct you here, Evan, though, you have to win this LCQ to make the feature. You have to be able to get the win. If you do not, your night is done.
You thought your odds were bad in the heat race, having to finish in the top 3. Well, the odds of making it into this one not very good. 12 drivers getting set to go home. Looks like James Seawright not even going to be able to make it after not qualifying in through heat race 5. He is not on the grid, so 12 drivers going to fight this one out as the pace car goes down and in. Rules still the same. 12 laps now going to be the distance, but no caution flags. You got to be good early if you want a shot at going to the main event. Green flag of the year. It is D. Parker on the gas. There was already contact on the outside. The 22, the 31 got together for the first time, and who knows how long. The outside line, though, worked pretty good that time as Rosales, he'll come off for corner 2 and defend that second position.
That gave him a bit of a jump start for the start of this one, and probably surprised him a little bit from the bump from Liebert overall, but he's having some decent speed again, though. He's got to deal with D. Parker, who's up at the front of this one, with Riley Thompson, who was 0.2 faster than the driver who transferred on the bubble spot from the last heat he ran in. Watch for Thompson as he goes side by side nearly into 3.
13's on the inside of the racetrack. Thompson knows he's got to go early. Also behind them, look at the 28 of Demetrius Whitney. He's really tied, and he'll squeeze the 31. Liebert gets up into the outside wall. That is the fight for 4th and 5th position, but in second, Thompson has got it, so he's on the move. Clear for P2. Now he'll set his eyes on the number 2, D. Parker, who leads this race.
Yeah, D. Parker's got a decent pace to start off this race, in fact. But the question is, how is it going to lay compared to Thompson? Thompson's now away from the traffic, is a 10th faster, letting that time by. And Parker is not running the line as aggressively as Thompson. Thompson's going all the way down to the apron for turn 2. Parker's being a bit more slower on the exits as well, too. So it's going to be a heck of a battle to try and hold off Thompson if he reaches the back of him.
And if you're the 13 machine, you know, typically we'll ask how much do you want to push now? How much do you conserve? 12 laps is still not a lot of time. So if I'm Thompson right now, I'm not thinking about conserving. You have to go. You're just now getting over the fact that you completed that pass for P2, and now you're nearly halfway through this race. Only 7 laps to go. This time by the start-finish line, the gap was .497. It closes to .446. That's not going to be enough, though, at that much per lap to get him in time. So Thompson needs to get a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, ways to go here too. It's reaching that halfway point, but Thompson, he has to make sure he's able to get a good run. Parker's being more conservative with his times once again to make sure he doesn't make contact with the turn 4 wall. And look at the times last time. Another 10th closed up last time by.
That's the exact interval that the 13 is going to need to maintain if he wants to get up and into this conversation. He's closing in on the back of the 45. And the good news for him is nobody else behind him is quite close. And Steven Rosales really struggling, was scored 3rd. He's fallen back to P5 now. Lee Bird and Johns and a whole host of the drivers fighting with him as the 22 falls down the running order. None of it matters because all of these drivers are going home if nothing happens at the 45.
Yeah, right now, Thompson is actually starting to lose, even with the faster times, he's losing a bit of the track position. He's starting to fall about even to what D. Parker is running because of how aggressively I think he's maybe burning up those tires a little bit extra now. So I think for Thompson to reach him, he's going to have to try and send it as much as he can, hope to be able to get back on the gas quick enough without making contact with the wall to be able to keep that amount of time gained on the entry, because for Parker, he's got the space to be able to try and defend with 3 to go.
It's exactly the thing that's in his benefit is, of course, he can really devote all of that attention back to the 13, see what's happening, but it just looks like Thompson stalled out. He really gave it a couple of good laps there, and out of turn 4, he's really tight, overdrove it on exit, just a little bit too antsy to get back in the gas, and it pushed him way up off of the corner, and he loses a 10th that time alone.
Yeah, he's really overdriving this car now in these past couple laps. Started noticing it with the exit of turn 2 with 3 to go, and now he's trying as hard as he can to get back into the gas to the point where he's almost tapping the wall. White flag's out, and that has lost him track time. About now 5 car lengths is the difference.
5 car lengths, and the 13 is going to go all the way down to the flat. Thompson wants to be able to get it, but it does not look like it's going to be happen. 6 for 6 for the pole sitters. D. Parker is going to come off at turn 4. He wins in C-Main, and he is going to head to tonight's feature race. Great piece of driving for the driver of the number 45 machine. Weathers the storm, remains consistent, and I think most importantly, Justin does not make a mistake. He didn't even give Thompson the chance to pounce on him, and it was a perfectly executed outing as he heads to the main event.
Yeah, absolutely executed. Good start of the race. Be able to get enough track position to pull away and be able to have enough time gained on Riley Thompson and his pace to be able to force Thompson to have to overdrive, knowing that the laps are ticking down. First time, in fact, I believe for Thompson, he has not made the main in the playoffs after being 6th in the standings rather coming into tonight.
To be safe, but again, we mentioned the importance of the points available in just qualifying into the feature race. We take a look now at your B-Main starting grid. Again, 15 drivers transferred in, 3 apiece for the heat races. We got our 16th qualifier through D. Parker winning the C-Main. Now we will name our 17th and final. Spencer Tart will bring us to the green flag for this B-Main. Ethan Hagen on the outside of the front row starts in 2nd. Lucas Cram starts in 3rd. Anthony Burrows rolls from 4th. And Mikey Neal rounds out your top 5.
Andreas equal start in 6 with Patrick Moose and Rajah Caruth in row 4. Rounding out your top 10 will be Brian LaPrade and Tyler Marble, with Jacob Hall, J. Mitchell Adams, Hallie Briss, and Vincent Arthur rounding out the 14 drivers in the final LCQ.
As you look top to bottom at the Race Spot TV starting grid, and now the 32 machine looks to just don't be the only guy to start from pole and not be able to go all the way. The 32 again qualifying into this race courtesy of his P4 from heat race number 2. Let's see if he can close it out. He wants to go main event racing. Green flag in the air, and the inside obliterates the top. Egan absolutely napping at the wheel is going to allow the 34 a Cram to go through, and the 17 to Mikey Neal on the inside to third.
Yeah, good start for the inside line, but a heck of a save through turn number 1 for Rajah Caruth, because he went to the point where he was about 4 wide into turn 1, went up nearly 45 degrees, and was able to keep the car going, but lost a heck of a lot of time for him and the rest of the drivers outside the top 10.
And honestly, you can save the race car all you want, but once you make a mistake, it is going to be very difficult, if not nearly impossible, to be able to make that up again. Now you find yourself in a position where if somebody else doesn't make a mistake, I really don't have much of a chance. And talk about the tail of two tapes. Spencer Tart is a half a second in front of the next closest car, but behind him, there's not a lot of separation. Cram's got a little bit of gap on Mikey Neal there in third, but just as I say that, a bad exit at a quarter number 2 is going to open up the door. Here comes to the inside of Mikey Neal. He'll try to get second, and from this point on back, there's no more than maybe a car length in between each car as Cram misses another quarter exit, and it'll cost him 2 spots.
Yeah, he was very tight for turn 2. Opens up the revolving door, and nothing he can really do except try and go for the next opening on the bottom side. He's going to fall way back as a bit of contact with P2.
Yeah, P2 there, Mikey Neal in that battle for position. They got into each other, and once again, it's that car on the inside being the aggressor. In this case, Patrick Moose loosened up Neal, but the 17's not going to let himself get pushed around. He comes flying back on the outside and takes that position back, and that resiliency is good. We're seeing that behind, but side by side can only go for so long, and all of a sudden, you blink your eyes, and Spencer Tart is 1.6 seconds in front of all of the action.
He's got the best lap of the race so far too, at 21.9, and is a 10th faster, in part because he doesn't have to worry about all the drivers behind him. They've been shuffling around and battling so much. He's now got such a big cushion where as long as he doesn't make a mistake, he's in a very comfortable position with halfway to go.
Is in a very good spot, and you know, you look back to the compliment I gave D. Parker, and that was simply just don't make mistakes. If you don't, have a big slide or overdrive the race car, somebody to make up the amount of time that Tart's got on air right now at 1.5 seconds, they're going to have to put down some incredible laps. So just don't make a mistake. And I don't even think Neal's in the clear yet. I think he still needs to be concerned about Patrick Moose behind him. I don't think the 33's done.
I don't think he is either. With all the battling going on, he wants to try and get to that second spot, knowing he's a bit faster a bit than Neal, and if he can catch back up to him and get a decent run and hope that Neal makes a mistake to close back on up, he might be able to get this spot. But Neal's taking a different line. He's running a higher line on the entrance of turn 1, but then going as low as he can on the apron for turn 2, and that's able to give him enough separation, at least in terms of the pace, compared to Patrick Moose now.
Exactly the way that this is all working out, and after a wild opening couple of laps, I think a lot of drivers have settled in. Andreas Selk with a big issue. Andreas Iksari got turned in turn number 4, got sent by the 30 car of Rajah Caruth. That was a big incident. You might see a lot of smoke as your race leaders come back by to the front straightaway. That is leaking out of the back of Iks number 40 entry. You can see some of the smoke now on the inside of the racetrack, but I think he does a very good job of getting out of the way for your race leaders. He's not coming down to the pit lane. He's still coasting around on the flat part of the racetrack of the apron, so if there's a battle for position, that might concern me. But again, doing his very best to limit the interference as Spencer Tart's going to come off of turn 4. He'll pass the lap traffic this time and probably hold his breath when he does so, but the white flag is in the air for your B-main pole sitter, the number 32 machine. Last time down the back straightaway, he's really rolled out of the throttle here, Justin, not to make any mistakes. Neil's closed a couple of tenths as the 32 just takes it easy and nice and smooth at a turn number 4. Spencer Tart's gonna win the B-main, and he is gonna join tonight's 17-car feature race lineup.
And he needed this win too, because remember we talked about the 28 drivers so far made the main? He was not one of them. He needed to make the main to be able to get forward. So you now have 30 drivers in total that have at least made one main, all because of Spencer Tart and in his very strong race. That gets him to the feature and could very well punch his ticket for next week's final showdown at Martinsville.
30 total drivers making it to the main. It pretty much guarantees you that those will be the 30 names qualifying into that Martinsville finale in 1 week's time, because again, there's just so many more points available, even for the backmarker finishes in those main events compared to not qualifying. And that pretty much wraps up the talk of who's going to be above and who's going to be below the cut line that we discussed in detail earlier. Small break as we get set to go feature racing from Stafford Motor Speedway. We'll step aside, and when we come back, we'll close out the open round of the playoffs. You're watching the eNASCAR Ignite Series, powered by iRacing on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network.
And that's how restrictor plates reduce air intake. Moving on, drag is one of your biggest competitors.
It slows you down, so make sure your car is streamlined.
And don't forget to get an edge with drafting.
Take advantage of the high-pressure air between your car and the one in front. Then you can slingshot.
You guys taking notes?
At the track, in the classroom, and online. Get special ticket offers for kids at NASCAR.com/KidsTix today.
It's been a good night of action so far for the eNASCAR Ignite Series powered by iRacing, but it's time for the top drivers to try and get their best runs for the final round before the final showdown for the eNASCAR Ignite Series playoffs. Justin Prince joined by Evan Bozzocco as we're about to get started with the 17 drivers all set to go for the grid. Real quickly, let's review the prizes these drivers will be fighting for with the final showdown next week at Martinsville. Some of the prizes include a $10,000 scholarship that will be put towards starting or furthering the winner's racing aspirations. A one-on-one driver's instructor with Max Pappas, which includes as well an MPI steering wheel. The introduction router to the NASCAR racing development personnel, as well as a simulation cockpit and a seat with monitor stands, a Martinsville Speedway VIP experience, and the NASCAR Racing Experience voucher with a VIP iRacing account. But real quickly, let's look through your starting grid for these 30 laps that we're going to see for tonight's feature. Zach Novak will start off on the pole tonight after a very strong one with his run alongside with Kenny Brady. Ryan Matthews and Andy Trupiano will start in row 2 with Dylan Hahn and Austin Edwards in row 3. Daniel Silvestri and Dave Walsh are in row 4, with Garrett Lowe, who has swept the races so far, in 9th with Nicholas Doucette. Aaron Maroney Jr. and Jake Matheson are in 11th and 12th, with Dylan Alt and Hunter O. Johnson 13th and 14th. Brandon Caress and Deep Parker in 15th and 16th, with Spencer Tart rounding out the 17 drivers in the grid for the main. With that, the pace car is off. Zach Novak is off and away we go for tonight's feature at Stafford Motor Speedway for the eNASCAR Ignite Series. And a very clean start for Novak, already off the single file. Ryan Matthews trying to keep up with the back bumper bar and is able to make the pass along by Kenny Brady to get to second. Brady has to check up. That holds up Dylan Hodge as Andy Truppiano got hit by the back bumper bar, but was able to still get the run to go side by side now with Dylan Hodge down the front stretch. And Andy Truppiano has had a very strong run for the eNASCAR Ignite Series so far, up near the front towards second or third for a majority of the races for the postseason so far. He's now up into the 4th spot, but Ryan Matthews is just under a car length to the back bumper now with Zach Novak, who is looking to get his first victory of the postseason for the playoffs. He is right now trying to hold off Matthews, who has shown a lot of speed. Kenny Brady still holds on to the 3rd spot. Meanwhile, side by side, Daniel Silvestri, who needed to get some points tonight. He's battling for position. He's able to get himself side by side with Dylan Hodge. That is for 6th spot. He goes deep on the bottom side, is able to hold on to the 6th spot, but watch who's behind him on the bottom. Garrett Lowe is riding that low side and is trying to get by Dylan Hodge as Lowe tries to get his best finish, get a great finish rather for this race so far. But other than that, right now, the top 3 have pulled away from 4th on back. It's about a half a second difference between the top 3 and Andy Truppiano. Dave Walsh has had some trouble, meanwhile, some smoke you might see. That's put him about a quarter of a track back to 16th, which is Jake Matheson. So unfortunate for Dave Walsh, who needed a strong run tonight. Right now, though, the top 3 all matching the same lines. Andy Truppiano's away from the battles behind, along with Austin Edwards, as they start to close in bit by bit towards the 3rd spot. Fastest driver last time by on the track was Kenny Brady, who ran a 21.845. This time by, Brady gets a little tiny bit tight on the exit of turn 4. But this time it's Ryan Matthews, the fastest driver on the track. All the top 5 drivers are in the 21.8s. Everyone down is 21.9s onward in terms of time. But Kenny Brady has just lost some time because he had a bad run through turn number 2. That has lost him some track position. He is still holding on to the 3rd spot though, but did lose about 2 car lengths for the battle. And it's been a wild first few laps, but Dylan Alt has had some trouble here as he's now very slow on the racetrack here.
Yeah, Alt real slow is going to be a tough break for him, obviously, as he will slip down towards the back part of the field there. Walsh and some other drivers way back after the 8 machine was involved in that early race incident after qualified from P8. But the battle for the race lead still on, and again to be questioned early on, just strictly based on the speeds we saw in practice. Was this going to be the first time all playoffs, really all season? It wasn't the Garrett Lowe show, and while he has made up a couple of spots, Justin running right now in P7. After starting this race at 9th spot, he is not in the battle for the race lead. It is on between Zach Novak and Ryan Matthews, and they would like to get it sorted out, I think, sooner than later, because I think Kenny Brady in P3 wants to join the fun. He himself only a couple of car lengths off as the 2 looks low.
Yeah, with all this battling going on, he's been faster by just about a few hundredths of a second at the most sometimes of these laps. It's been trading back and forth between him and Matthews for much of the laps. He just has to make sure he doesn't get too tight with turn 2. He's been doing that now and losing a lot of track position in terms of car lengths to the back of Matthews. That has pushed him back towards Truppiano.
And Trippiano's in a position as well after being, one of the top drivers headed into this one, that he wants to really close this out with the stable mark. There was no doubt that the 5 was going to be able to make it at Austin. Edwards has had a couple of very good runs. He's P5 also. No question that those drivers were going to be racing with us at Martinsville in 1 week's time, but you look for a statement race. I don't think that, by the time we reset the points, it doesn't matter if you finish first in this race or 17th. If you're going to Martinsville, you're going to the championship round where those 30 drivers will fight and only one will come out with that $10,000 scholarship. So what you're looking for tonight is a statement, and I think the best way to do that is go out there and win this race, as we're already a third of the way through now, working lap 13 of 30.
And it's an absolutely huge statement to try and get something together, because when it comes to Novak, remember, of course, with the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series, very strong season for him. He's 10th in the points, really. Only one top 5 in the playoffs so far. So this would be huge for his confidence, I think, for the rest of the run, especially since, remember, he had some rough times trying to get into the mains in some cases in the first couple rounds. This is his strongest run by far of the playoffs so far for Novak.
And if you're going to peak at any time, now's the time to do it. Of course, drivers had to qualify in through over 400 different drivers that raced in the regular season. Only the top 50 made it to the TV time when we started the playoffs. And of course, it continues to get more restrictive as we continue to wither down the field. If you're going to get hot, now's the time to do it. And Novak, again, has been at the top all night. He qualified in the number 1 position. Therefore, he was on pole for Heat Race 1 and went on to win that. He has not been anything less than first at all this evening, but the fact that Matthews is sticking right with him, if I'm that 15, I'm concerned, Justin, because, if the two felt like they're pretty even, I need to get a pass done. Now I think it'd be all over him. The fact that Matthews is lurking there in second, if I'm Novak, I'm worried that he's being able to save a little bit and then he'll make a move late, because again, there's always the question, if I make a move too early, I give that driver an opportunity to come back and try to make a move on me. So if you try to set it up strategically, that's not going to be a thing.
Yeah, it's about timing up that pass exactly, and the way a lot of the drivers have done it is they wait for a slight mistake and then send it to the bottom, going later, letting off later, and dragging the brakes a little bit later to try and get yourself to the bottom, almost all the way down to the yellow line in some cases, to try and get the pass done. With Matthews, he knows he's in a great spot. He might, right now, if he wants to try and battle for this win, I would expect him to try and get himself towards that position, to go towards the bottom, to try and go side by side with about 2 laps to go-ish, just to be safe.
And of course, if you've got a race car that's strong enough to let you make a decision, then it feels pretty good. Oftentimes, the world doesn't work out quite as nicely, but as we put 20 down, take 10 to go this time through, still very much a chance that that number 2 machine, Ryan Matthews, is going to be able to try to set something up. I do get concerned, though, when it goes from 2 to 3 car lengths, and of course, a lot of funning going on track. Again, all of the drivers based on the fact that through now 4 weeks, we've had 30 total drivers make a main and 30 drivers advance. So we think that everybody in this race is going to race in that finale next week. The positions here or there doesn't really matter because everything will reset and wipe the slate clean. So while there are some other fights going on track, I think the anticipation builds for Matthews, who finds himself, though, at the biggest deficit thus far. The 15's getting a little bit of ground.
Yeah, he's starting to gain a bit of ground. In terms of the lap times, they're just about even. But with Matthews, I wonder if he's just comfortable with the second place spot. This is one of, again, his strongest runs for the playoffs so far. To be in this position, I wouldn't want to make an enemy for when the series shifts to Martinsville for next week, because of that points reset and the importance to make that main and have a clean race for that wild final showdown.
Yeah, certainly being quiet tends to be a good thing. Certainly a lot more people have been talking about Garrett Lowe, who leads the points, than they have been talking about, say, somebody like an Andy Trippiano, even a Kenny Brady, who came into tonight third, sometimes flying under the radar, and so, allowing those other drivers to not have you on their minds is going to be a good thing. You certainly do not want to make enemies. I mean, all the racetracks that we've gone to are the short tracks in which it's very easy to find yourself in some close quarters racing, if you want to phrase it like that, with somebody else. If you've got a problem with somebody, stuff happens on a short track. The interesting thing is Martinsville is certainly that kind of a racetrack as we take 5 laps to go, Justin, but ironically enough, it's the biggest racetrack these drivers will see all season.
And that's going to be a very interesting race with how these Legends cars handle somewhat sensitive to touch, as well as a very, very tight handling cars. It's going to be interesting how they're going to handle it. And of course, you want to make sure you have some momentum and make sure you don't have any, again, to get to the point, enemies or anything like that when the races get underway for that final showdown.
And so far, it looks like so good. Zach Novak's lead stays at 2 car lengths. If it's going to happen, it's got to happen now. 3 laps left to go from Stafford Motor Speedway, and Matthews is still right there. Kenny Brady just a little bit off, and it's kind of the tail of the tape for Brady. Trippiano and Edwards, who run 3rd, 4th, and 5th. They've got speed, but they haven't had the overwhelming speed, and that's something they're certainly going to need to work on into next week. Those kind of top 5s have been more than enough to get where they want to go, but it is not going to win you the $10,000 scholarship. 2 laps to go for Zach Novak.
And Novak's been having a great pace to be able to establish himself. But a lot of good drivers having some runs. Daniel Silvestri has been able to stay in front of Garrett Lowe for that 6th spot. And remember, he was near the in the 28th spot for the points as they reached the white flag.
White flag in the air. It has been Garrett Lowe all season long, and I believe the first week in which we've seen every single race of the evening to be the driver who started on a pole go on to win. Zach Novak is going to be the first driver to take a checkered flag in the playoffs, not named Lowe. Final time at a turn 4, yes sir. He breaks the streak and makes a statement. Headed into the finale, Zach Novak a winner in the eNASCAR Ignite Series playoffs. It comes at Stafford this evening.
And he had a strong night tonight to get himself this victory after having just the 1 top 10 for the playoffs so far. He had some challenges from Matthews, of course, on his back bumper bar for parts of that run, but stayed composed, showed his experience with the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series to take his first checker flag of the playoffs.
And the burnouts tell you how excited he is about it. You take a look at your full race results for this one. Novak with the win on top of Ryan Matthews, Kenny Brady, Andy Trippiano, and Austin Edwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We'll try to catch up with the most of your top finishers as possible in just a moment. Daniel Silvestri comes home P6. Garrett Lowe, 7th. Lowest he's been in quite some time. Aaron Mulrooney Jr., 8th. Nick Doucette comes home 9th. And Dylan Hodge rounds out your top 10.
Hunter O. Johnson finished off 11th tonight after starting 14th, with Dee Parker in 12th, Spencer Tard in 13th, and Braden Caress in 14th. With the last few drivers with the grid, Jake Matheson, Dylan Alt, and Dave Walsh all had issues throughout the race with contact, which was again unfortunate for all 3 of those drivers. Walsh 24 laps down for the last spot, Alt 1 lap down, Matheson way off the pace in 13 seconds back.
Not going to be a lot of mojo for those final finishing spots as they head into the finale next week. But the good news is they should be in. And we'll take one final opportunity to step aside. And when we come back, the post-race show, we'll talk with your top finishers and set your Martinsville grid. We are now just 1 race away from crowning the first ever eNASCAR Ignite Series champion. You don't want to go away. The post-race show is next on the iRacing Esports Network. Right back live from the virtual Stafford Motor Speedway for the RaceSpot TV post-race show following tonight's race 4 of 4 on the opening round of the eNASCAR Ignite Series powered by iRacing playoffs. We believe we have the field set for the $10,000 race at Martinsville in 1 week, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. First, we welcome you back inside the booth. Myself, Evan Pasoko, Justin Prince upstairs with you with Randy Channon bringing us to you. We took a look top to bottom at our full race results just a moment ago, and now we go trackside and talk with those top finishers. Zach Novak is your race winner tonight. As noted, first driver to win on the playoffs, not named Garrett Lowe. It's a great result for the driver of the number 15 machine. Trackside with him now, Zach. Congratulations. You guys finally able to put that complete race together in dominant fashion. It did look like Ryan was kind of all over you there, but in the end, never really got to the back bumper, and you guys cruised to get the first win on the playoffs. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've underperformed these playoffs, I feel like, and I came out tonight trying to just score a win, get some momentum going into Martinsville, and really focused on my hot laps this week to make sure I could qualify towards the front, and we did just that, qualified pole, and led every lap tonight, so big thanks to everybody that supports me, simspeedshop.com, and Deer Graphics especially for making this car look as good as it does, and we'll see him at Martinsville.
Certainly got a lot of TV time up front. You mentioned that the night was pretty good. You guys start on pole in all the races. The heat, you automatically transfer into the main by winning that, and of course go pole to checkers on this one. Quite literally impossible to do much better. To be able to finally put that together, you talk about the hot lap speed obviously helped you in Q, but as well, if you go out there and you just kind of hot lap it every single time around, you're going to be pretty darn tough to catch. What was the big difference maker tonight? What did you figure out that you would have been struggling with maybe in those past couple of weeks?
I think I was just trying to push it too hard and use too much throttle, and I just kind of chilled out with my inputs this week and really focused on being precise with the brake pedal, and I think that helped me a lot. That helped me be a lot more consistent in the feature there, and I think Ryan had a little bit more raw speed than me, but I felt really consistent there out front, and I just didn't really make too many mistakes, and that's one thing I've really messed up these playoffs so far, is I've just made a lot of mistakes, so I tried to clean those up tonight and just get better overall.
Successfully do so. The way that this works out is there's a ton of points available to the drivers who make it into the main event, but really by getting into one of them, you get enough points to go to Martinsville. I think the total number of drivers who made it to a main over these last few weeks is 30, and those are going to be the 30 drivers who are going to fight it out next week. So, kind of knowing that you were pretty safe, what was the objective coming into tonight? Obviously, you go for the race win, but the points are just going to reset. So, did you learn anything tonight that you think you'll be able to apply to next week, give you an upper hand? Because, the regular season in these last 4 weeks in this opening round of the playoffs really doesn't matter. We'll hit the reset button, and it is a whole new ball game when we catch with you next Wednesday.
Yeah, like I said, I think the main thing I learned tonight is just backing off and focusing on consistency more than anything. Like I said, I was just pushing it way too hard and trying way too hard to carry speed, and this week I dialed that down a little bit. So I think that's the big thing I learned is I can just tone it down a little bit for Martinsville and probably be faster than I was trying to get more speed. So I think that's the biggest thing I learned is just not push it too hard, I guess.
Well, with smooth sailing tonight, you get the race win, and of course, you're going to be headed to the main event next week. I'm sure you'll think a lot about what may happen, and we certainly wish you the best of luck in that one, Zach. Before we let you take off, anybody else you want to say hi to from Victory Lane?
Yeah, I just want to give a big shout out to all my teammates at Lockdown Racing. They didn't really help me too much in this since it's a fixed series, but they give me support and make me strive to be better in this series and just as a race car driver in general. So thanks to them. Thanks to Logan Sheets for helping me out in this series and in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series. Big thanks to all my family that help support me and making sure I can try to chase this as a dream. So thanks to all of them, and thanks to you guys for the broadcast. Thanks to iRacing for putting this on. I'm really excited to go to Martinsville and try to win the championship.
You know, it's going to be a busy week for you with Tuesday coming up next week on top of the championship here with the eNASCAR Ignite Series the following day next Wednesday. But, Zach, again, we appreciate your time. Congrats on the win. Congrats on qualifying. And for your sake, hopefully Wednesday's good, and we'll have an opportunity to chat with you again. We'll catch you there.
Thanks, Evan.
Race winner tonight from the Stafford Motors Speedway, Zach Novak wins the fourth and final race on this opening round of the playoffs. It was a P2 result for Ryan Matthews, and trackside with him is Justin.
Thank you very much, Evan. Ryan Matthews joins us now trackside. Ryan, how do you feel about coming away second place tonight in tonight's main?
Definitely feel good after what happened last week. I didn't make the main last week. But I do think we showed a lot of speed here tonight. I do think I was faster than him at the beginning and towards the middle of the run. Kind of slipped up towards the end, but I didn't want to rough him up because, you know, I'm locked into Martinsville, or I knew I was locked into Martinsville, and I didn't want payback at Martinsville. So I kept it clean, and I didn't really want to battle with him to let Kenny catch up to us. But I feel really good about the second place finish.
I was going to ask a little bit about that, the difficulty to try and keep up with Novak. How difficult was it to keep up with the back end of him, to try and position yourself to try and be able to battle while, of course, defending Kenny Brady?
Yeah, Zach was very consistent and just kind of running my line. I didn't really focus too much on Kenny. I don't know, just kind of running a consistent line lap after lap. And really following Zach, following his line really helped me out, be a little faster. And I think if I could have got up to his back bumper for a couple laps and kind of arced it up in the diamonded in the turns and probably got a better run off the turns than him, I probably could have set him up for a pass. But like I said, I didn't want to rough him up.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the handling as well, how to really rephrase, how difficult really was it to be able to get the proper runs to make sure, of course, he didn't hit the wall? Because from up here, up from the broadcast booth, rather, it looked like sometimes that all the drivers really were trying to make sure they had their tires underneath the white line, basically, for the apron section to make sure they didn't push up, especially on turn 4, and slap the wall.
Oh yeah, the setup was super tight. You saw a lot of drivers running on that white line to get the car to rotate through the turns so they wouldn't hit the wall. And a couple times I messed up and I almost hit the wall. But the setup was super tight, so you have to use finesse the brake and throttle to get that car to rotate, and also use that apron, that white line, to help the car rotate some too.
And with that, of course, next week is Martinsville. What's your mindset heading into the final showdown to try and battle for the huge prizes for the eNASCAR Ignite Series? And how much work, of course, do you plan to put in to try and get yourself to where you're ready to go for that race at Martinsville?
Oh, I'm never going to stop practicing. I'm going to practice as much as I can and be as consistent and get my line down as much as I can. And hopefully I can get a couple of my buddies in a practice and get them to help me out a little bit with my consistency. But definitely got to put a lot of time and effort into that to hopefully be the fastest one at Martinsville and take home that championship.
Is there anyone you want to thank before you let you go for the second place finish tonight?
Yes, sir. I got to thank H&J Total Lawn Care, Midwest Power Source, Pendleton Forest Products, S&M Auto Service, Denise Matthews Real Estate, Jackson Graham Racing, and also all the boys back home at the virtual shop. They helped me out a lot this week, and plan to take it to Martinsville next week, or the final race.
Thank you very much for the time, Ryan. Congratulations on the second place finish.
Thank you, sir.
And that was Ryan Matthews coming away second tonight in the round 4 of the playoffs. Evan?
Big thanks to Matthews. Believe we'll go trackside now. Catch up with the driver of the number 6 machine, Kenny Brady. Kenny, congratulations on a good result for you this evening. Of course, we knew coming into this that you guys were plenty safe to be able to qualify into Martinsville. But you go out there, you still put in a good race. You get another top 5 out of it. How was your night?
Yeah, I think the night went pretty well from all the through the heat races and the warm-up. I felt pretty good going into the feature after the heat race. Along with the good time I put up in qualifying, just felt really consistent through the heat race and gained a little bit more confidence going into the feature and the main, and it turned out to work. Kept up with the two and Matthews and Novak there, and just couldn't really find any other line to try and get up to those guys. It was really about trying to be as consistent as possible, and I didn't really want to try anything because I didn't want to let the guy behind me gain a little bit of time. So just kind of rode in line there, hoped for anything to happen between the top two. And, you know, as it ended, I'm pretty satisfied with the result.
You've been racing with these guys for so long. It's not just the 4 playoff races we've seen, and it's really that same group, Tripiano, Edwards, Matthews, Novak, all you guys pretty equal on speed every week. What have you learned about how these guys drive you think you could apply to next week?
Just track position, really. I mean, I feel like I have just as much speed as them. I feel like if I qualify good for next week and I start in the top 5, that I'll be in the run for the money at the end there. It's just all about consistency, and if you have the track position, you know, you're up there in the mix. And I think the biggest key for next week is to get that good starting spot.
Of course, you know, and we mentioned this, and it's not a rip on you at all. You come into this third in the points dimension. That might be a good thing for you because we pay a lot of attention to the guys at the very top of the championship. We take a look at the guys towards the bottom. Do you feel like flying under the radar might help you out here?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, you guys finished third overall in the points coming into tonight, so we didn't talk about you, I should say, as much as Garrett, and certainly, you know, not as much as those guys that were struggling to qualify. Do you feel like maybe the fact that not a lot of attention has been paid to you maybe gives you an upper hand because you might be able to sneak up on some guys?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, showing speed, you know, we're pretty consistent through the playoffs, and I hope my name can get out there to, you know, get in Low and Tripiano's and, you know, Matthew's head up there, and hope they realize that I'm here and I want to be the champion, and I'm gonna give it all I got next week, and I'm definitely a force to be reckoned with. You know, I practice a lot and I take this very seriously, and I hope that going into next week they'll be worried about me because I'll definitely be up there.
We look forward to catching that. Best of luck at Martinsville, Kenny. Thanks for giving us your time, and we'll see what happens. We'll catch you next Wednesday.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a good night.
The third place finisher tonight from the Stafford Motor Speedway. Justin, we have a look now at what the points are going to be. Of course, all the names you thought would be in are in, but in late race drama, Demetrius Whitney is going to be your 30th and final qualifier. Anthony Burrows gets the boot. We now know the 30 drivers who will fight for the championship next week.
And we talked a little bit about if there was, say, a couple more, 3 drivers who had never been in a main before for these playoffs to advance. What would happen in this case? Anthony Burrows just 2 points short of Demetrius Whitney tonight based on how those last chance qualifiers fared out this evening. And that really is going to be disappointing probably for Burrows overall because coming into tonight, he was in a bit of a comfortable situation.
And of course, you are going to want to see how this concludes next week. A $10,000 scholarship on the line, a one-on-one driver instructional with Max Pappas, a SimSeat simulation cockpit. You get introduced to some of the folks at NASCAR Racing Development, a VIP experience at Martinsville. There is so much more on the line. 30 drivers, only one of them will be the champion, and we find out next Wednesday. That does it for us here tonight for the Stafford Motor Speedway on behalf of our entire team at RaceSpot TV and iRacing and for your broadcast team tonight. For myself, Evan Pasoko, for Justin Prince, and our director, Andy Cheneth, we want to thank you for tuning in. Congratulate Zach Novak, your race winner, and the rest of our 30 transferees. This series returns next Wednesday, September the 26th from Martinsville for the season finale. That race and every race as we get set to crown our first ever eNASCAR Ignite Series champion, going to be found right here on RaceSpot TV, NASCAR.com, and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Stafford, and we'll see you at the paperclip. $10,000 awaits us.